The Tabernacle. On one of my trips to Israel, I had the opportunity to go to Timna Valley Park. There, Christians have been allowed to set up a full-scale model of the tabernacle. It was exciting to be able to walk through and to get a sense of its size and how everything was placed and what it would look like out in the desert. When God talks to Moses, He tells Moses to go back and to tell the people to take off their ornaments, their jewelry. The Jewish tradition has it, and it's actually reflected that when they translate the scripture into Greek in the Septuagint, that they include the fact that not only did they take off their ornaments, they took off their brightly colored outer garments so they would stand before God in deep humility. You see a people that's just the opposite of those going towards the golden calf. Now the people are not in rebellion. Now they're in humility. Another thing that shows this is that it looks like they built the entire ark, the entire tabernacle, in 6 months. So that when they celebrated the 1-year anniversary of leaving Egypt, they assembled the tabernacle of God. We are told that they brought gold and silver and all the various things. Some ask, well, I thought they already brought all that and built a golden calf. Oh, no. With 600,000 men plus their families, they only gave a portion of that for building the calf. And in comparison, very little. Now they have so much more to give, and they freely give it all. The question comes up, what about the tools that they needed to work with this? The looms, the spinning wheels, the instruments for cutting stone, the anvil, the melting pots, all of these various things. Did they bring those from Egypt? Well, most people believe that they did. And of course, they would just put these onto carts and carried them along. And I think that's probably what happened. But don't forget, they're in the land of the Midianites. They're not alone there. They're alone around this mountain, but they're not alone in the land. And they had gold and silver and all these precious things, so they could easily have bought these things as well. Among all the stuff that was given, there's one little verse that kind of sticks out to me. The Egyptian women would take a piece of highly polished bronze, and they would use this as a mirror. And it was so valuable to them, they actually carried it with them. They hung it around their neck and put it underneath their clothes, and they would carry that. And so it's assumed that the Israelite women did the same thing. So when they were giving all their jewels and their gold and the garments and all this type of stuff, the women probably didn't give up their mirrors, their little mirrors that they carried with them. So when it came time to build the bronze basin, the scripture says that some women gave their mirrors, their bronze mirrors, to be used. I think that is significant. The Ark of God was in the Holy of Holies. The only thing that's in the ark, there was the 2 tablets of stone where God had written the law of God. There was a gold urn that had manna in it. And then later on, Aaron's rod was placed inside. This is the one that bloomed and actually brought forth ripe almonds. That's all that was inside the Ark of God. The tabernacle had another little thing that's overlooked. The tabernacle had dust. There's a law that says if a woman was accused of adultery, they would take the dust that was on the floor of the tabernacle, mix it with water, and she would drink it. And how she reacted to it would show whether or not she was guilty or not. The history of the tabernacle. The Levites were in charge of tearing it down and setting it back up each time they would move along. With all the Levites that were there, they were able to quickly do this. It went with them throughout the 40 years. When they went into the land of Canaan, Joshua set up his home base of operation in a place called Gilgal, near Jericho. And as he went through all the wars in the land, that's where he was. And so the tabernacle stayed there. Finally, when the land was divided up, the tribe of Ephraim, which is what Joshua was, he was part of that tribe, moved to a certain area. So Joshua took it with him and placed it in the area that belonged to Ephraim at a place called Shiloh. And it stayed in Shiloh for 300 years, throughout the entire time of the judges. Well, there came a time when the Israelites went to war against the Philistines. They decided to take the Ark of God. So they took the Ark away from the tabernacle and took it into battle with them. The Philistines captured it, and we'll be talking about this story later on. Later on, it came back into Israel, but it never made it back to Shiloh. So now they were separated. The tabernacle was here, and the ark was there. When King Saul came along, he wasn't focused on the ark, he focused on the tabernacle. And he moved it several times, but it actually ended up at a place called Gibeon. When David came along, he didn't look at the tabernacle, he looked at the ark. And he brought the ark of God into Jerusalem after a little bit of difficulty. Now you have two different places of worship. You have the tabernacle and the ark. It stayed that way until Solomon came along. He worshiped at both. Both places had a high priest. Both places had all the priests and everything set up. He worshiped at both places. And so he brought it together when he built the temple of God. Well, so many little details about these stories. Come back when we give you more insights on the story.